David Pastrnak is the face of the franchise, but I'm telling you right now, the captain of this new look Boston Bruins squad has to be the one channeling the 2011 grit. The C belongs on the chest of Nikita Zadorov.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren. This is Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you so much for making the podcast your first listen every day. And on today's episode, we are going to update the captaincy debate. There's no captain for the Bruins right now. David Pastrnak is the face, the heart of this franchise, but Nikita Zadorov is emerging as its soul, and I contend he should be wearing the C for this team. We're also going to update the Bruins Barometer, a weekly look at whether we're buying, selling, or holding based on recent performance, and we will preview tonight's game against the Ottawa Senators. Before we get into all that, reminder, you can find the podcast on socials at Locked NHL Bruins, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Again, I am your host, Ian McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I have been covering this team and the NHL for various major outlets for nearly the past 20 years. So there's this ongoing debate about the bench clearing celebration for David Pastrnak's 400th goal against Toronto on Tuesday. Some people are saying it was excessive, unwarranted, not that big of a major milestone. We saw it happen for Alex Ovechkin when he broke the record, when he hit 900 goals recently. There's other instances where, say, Austin Matthews, the Bruins were playing the other night, when he scored his 400th, it was a fairly reserved celebration where he just went down the bench and gave everybody some glove taps. But it shows for the Bruins that he is the emotional core and kind of the franchise pulse. He said it really hit him when the guys came over, and it shows the love that everybody on this roster has for David Pastrnak. And they're deeply unified around his success. His consistency, his energy, and his humility set a daily standard. He's the franchise face in his prime, trusted by veterans and younger players like Marat Husnudinov, Fraser Minton. He's already an alternate captain, and giving him the captaincy would formalize his status as the successor to the Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand era, and the long-term face of the organization. There's a huge argument to be made for giving the captaincy to David Pastrnak, and I would not be against that in any respect. Like, I am all for David Pastrnak being named captain of this team. At the same time, though, I'm becoming more inclined to give the C to Z. And it's come to the forefront, well, even back to last season. He was one of the guys who was well out there when things were going off the rails. He was always willing to be present, address the media, talk about the team's struggles and the disappointment of not making the playoffs after he signed a deal to what he thought was going to be a contending team. He has remained at the forefront here this season, and as Zdeno Chara was being inducted into the Hall of Fame the other night, Zadorov said he's been watching highlights from the 2010-2011 Bruins squad that won the Stanley Cup, and trying to take notes on what should be an identity template for the current roster. He said he was scrolling through YouTube, saw highlights from the Stanley Cup final in 2011 against Vancouver, and he watched all of them. It was nasty, physical, a hard team to play against. And that's the identity they want to bring back to Boston. Every guy has bought in so far this year, and they want to be really tough to play against, nasty to play against. And he personally just goes out there and tries to do his job. And he knows all the other guys have his back for it. Marco Sturm, after the game, said, this team wants to send a message. They don't want to be an easy out. If one guy says something from the other team, the whole bench is standing up. They can play that game, and they're well prepared for it. So how does this lend to Zadorov being a captain candidate? Well, he walks the talk, right? His physical presence recently against Toronto, flattening both Scott Lawton and Austin Matthews and knocking both of those guys out of the game, drawing a penalty on Max Domi, who went and challenged him to a fight. He's the face of the culture, not just a talker. And again, he openly cited that 2011 Stanley Cup team, nasty, physical, hard to play against. That's the identity they want to bring back to Boston. And Sturm praised the team's willingness to drag each other into the fight. Both Zadorov and Husnudinov were willing to defend teammates after questionable hits the other night. And that suggests that the new identity is filtering down through Zadorov all the way to some of the younger guys trying to make an impact on this team. Patrice Bergeron's long gone, as is Marchand. The captaincy isn't just symbolic. It's about whether the team leans into its offensive talent, Pastrnak style, his heart, or newfound toughness and defensive accountability in Zadorov style. The team's recent success, this 7-game win streak, is built on a balance of both, right? Good power play, scoring from all over, skilled plays, and improved defensive buy-in. That grit, that piss and vinegar that Don Sweeney was preaching prior to the season. Can that balance exist under a single letter? Can David Pastrnak become the captain and pull his team into the fight? Can Nikita Zadorov wear the captaincy and show off that balance where he's staying disciplined, drawing penalties instead of taking penalties, and contributing to the scoreboard success of this team? I think so. And there's already a big weight on his shoulders in terms of producing for this team night in and night out, because if he's not on, it's tricky to count on that secondary scoring every night. Whereas Zadorov, he can go out there, light guys up with a big hit, face the media afterwards. I think it really does make a lot of sense for Nikita Zadorov to be named captain. It's kind of a debate between David Pasternak's inspiration, Zadorov's intimidation. And I'm telling you right now, I'd probably go with the intimidation factor. I really think that goes a long way towards allowing Pastrnak to do his thing offensively and freeing Nikita Zadorov to do and say the right things, to walk the talk, and to institute that identity nasty, harder to play against, to bring that night in and night out. And that brings us to the Bruins, 7-game win streak, a record of 11-7-0 overall. You could argue that you should be buying on this team, but the advanced numbers and upcoming schedule kind of scream hold, and we'll discuss all that here as the podcast continues. When I'm hydrating, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. And that's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of the top college and pro teams. Hydration has become non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, honestly, just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network going today. So proud to be part of this network and everything that is going on your team every day, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, baseball, college. Check it out. Locked On NHL Game Night as well. So every Thursday on the podcast, we do the Bruins Barometer. They're in the midst of a 7-game win streak. They're coming off Pastrnak's 400th and 401st goals. Are we buying, selling, or holding the Bruins stock right now? You can make an argument for buy. The Bruins are sitting in a tie for first place in the Atlantic Division with the Montreal Canadiens. In terms of total points, at least, they are currently second if you look at point percentage, which is the percentage of points earned in regards to total possible points. 18 games, that's 36 points. They've amassed 22, and that is good for 5th in the Eastern Conference right now, behind New Jersey, Carolina, Montreal, and Pittsburgh. Their +3 goal differential is 7th, tied with the Philadelphia Flyers. So things are improving. Things are looking pretty good for this team. They're, of course, in this 7-game win streak. I was going to say in the middle of the 7-game win streak, but they're at the 7th win, including 2 emotional wins over Toronto, 1 over Ottawa, a team that they will be playing tonight. And the power play, which was absolutely abysmal last season, is currently ranked 8th in the NHL with a 25% success rate, which may be compensating for other issues as we'll touch on here. Steve Spott has come in and absolutely revitalized a power play that was pretty dreadful last year. Hampus Lindholm's health certainly accounts for that in part. He scored a power play goal the other night, and the Bruins are looking dangerous once again on the man advantage. There's also the emotional buy. Again, the unity this team has showed. Pastrnak's 400th goal celebration confirmed the team's strong, unified culture. And I know Boston people may not want to hear this, but this team has really given me 2025 Toronto Blue Jays vibes. You've got a team of misfits, perhaps. You have some solid star players in David Pastrnak, Morgan Geeky's emerging as a star player, Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman. But they're also full of some, guys looking to make an impact that are not necessarily high-end guys, like a Victor Arvidsson or Mikey Eyssimont, Sean Corrali, Tanner Jeannot. They kind of have that misfit mentality. And tying it all together is that unified culture. You can see it in the room, that there are, and on the ice, on the bench. This is a tight group, and they want to play well, not only to erase what was last year, but to kind of renew that sense of pride in the Spoked Beat. Marco Sturm has this team playing with the nasty, hard-to-play against grit that Zadorov called for. Zadorov showed, he's kind of been on the edge of things a little bit, cross-checking Matthew Schaefer, injuring Scott Laughton, injuring Austin Matthews, who's going to miss a week at least. It's a significant factor in these tight wins, though. If you can get under the opponent's skin, if you can show that you have your teammates' backs, if you're going to go out there and celebrate just for the joy of such a personal accomplishment, it shows how tight this group is. And perhaps they were a bit disjointed last season. The expectations were higher. Things went off the rails. It's easy to lose sight of things. But now they have this common goal to get back to what they know they can be. And there's clearly a cultural buy-in and strong relationships being formed. Now, the critical hold case is sustainability and analytics. I talked about it earlier this week on the podcast. Everydayers will remember the biggest red flag is expected goals for percentage, which is just around 46% at 5-on-5. And what that means is they are regularly giving up more high danger opportunities than they are generating at 5-on-5, which is where the majority of the game is being played. They're also giving up more shots, but it's those high danger opportunities that really tilt the expected goals. And those come kind of in that home plate slot area around the crease. You can be getting tons of shots from the point or from outside near the walls, but they're not considered high danger chances. Those are like breakaways, guys in front, tipping things, slot shots. The Bruins are perhaps winning games they statistically should be losing. They're being outchanced by a significant margin each and every night, or on average anyways. When the teams are playing equal strength, the Bruins are being outchanced by a significant margin on average. The power play is helping buffer that, as is the penalty kill, which is much improved. Despite the grit, their goals against average is 3.24, which is 24th in the league. They're winning on surprisingly high-end scoring and relatively timely goaltending, not really strong defense. Jeremy Swayman, Yunus Korpisalo getting kind of shelled out there, but they're making clutch saves and enough saves to compensate for the lack of coverage in the slot, in front of the net, etc. The team save percentage still hovering around 900 and below. So there could be some improvements there. That's why we're saying hold, right? The next 6 games against Ottawa, Montreal, Carolina, and then out west against Anaheim, Los Angeles, San Jose, they are going to be big tests. Key divisional games, and then the Carolina Hurricanes, who they did just beat a couple of weeks ago, but obviously one of the top teams in the NHL. Followed by a road trip that will provide an opportunity to bank some points against Pacific Division opponents. If they can't address that expected goals percentage, the current win streak is going to end pretty abruptly, and we'll see what this team is made of once they face that adversity again. Look, the Bruins are trending up. They're ranked number 10 on the NHL.com power rankings. I saw they were 8th on Bleacher Report. But the metrics are kind of at least flashing yellow, if not red. 7-game win streak is fantastic. The power play is covering up a multitude of failed defensive coverages. Smart move has to be hold. Let's wait for them to prove that this new identity can actually elevate that pretty bad expected goals number over this next road trip before we go all in on the stock. We'll have a better look. Thanksgiving is generally a measuring opportunity to see where teams stand at that key holiday. The Bruins have several games coming up before that and the Black Friday game. So we'll have a better sense of what this team is made of. Then huge test tonight in Ottawa. We'll preview that game here as the podcast continues. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or just want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up, play your game with FanDuel. You can get in on the action with respect to the NFL and the NHL as well. Just go over to FanDuel, check out the over-under for tonight's Bruins-Senators game, put $5 down. If it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. For reference, that over-under is set at 5.5. FanDuel.com, play your game all season long with the official sports betting partner of the NBA. For the second time in a week and the third time already this season, the Bruins and Senators will be in action tonight. The game will take place in Ottawa. The Bruins won the last game against this team just last week by a score of 3-2 in overtime. That game, it was Marat Husnudinov who scored. Oh, no, sorry. It was Pavel Zacha who scored the overtime winner in that one with about 5.6 seconds left. The previous game was a very lopsided 7-2 decision for the Ottawa Senators in kind of a rock bottom moment for this team so far this season. Now, over the past 5 games, let's look at Ottawa first. They are 2-3 over their past 5 games. Actually, they've lost 3 games in overtime over the past 5 games. So actually, they're 1-2-0-3, I should say. Sorry. 6-1-3 over their past 10. They are coming off a loss to the Dallas Stars. Prior to that, they beat Utah, Philadelphia in overtime, lost to Boston in overtime, lost to Montreal in overtime. And they will be, hopefully tonight we can finally get Jeremy Swayman versus Linus Ullmark. It's something that we have so far been denied, and both teams are going with their best options. That will be the matchup. Ullmark, 6-4-4 with an .870 save percentage, so he's really struggling. .900 save percentage for Jeremy Swayman, 7-4. The Bruins have an .891 team save percentage. Senators going at .862 right now. What else is going on? We have 2 teams who are getting some depth help over the last little bit. Senators are led in scoring over their past 5 games by Michael Amadio. I always think of Night at the Roxbury. Amadio! When I think of him, he's got 4 goals, 5 points. Shane Pinto with 3 assists. He just signed an extension this morning, 4 years, $7.5 million beginning next season. Charlie McAvoy has 6 points, all assists over the past 5 games. David Pastrnak leading the way with 3 goals for this team over the past 5. McAvoy, 14 points in 17 games, 23 shots. He's yet to score a goal. Look for him to try to break through tonight, but he's on pace for a career high, as we've talked about here on the podcast. The Senators are led in scoring by Drake Batherson, Tim Stützle, Shane Pinto, Dylan Cousins, Claude Giroux, all guys to look for. Thomas Chabot, I believe, is injured, so keep an eye on Jordan Spence. He's got 1 goal, 6 assists in 8 games for this team. He was scratched for half the season so far, which makes no sense. +5. This is a guy who does a little bit of everything, and he could get an elevated role here with Chabot out of the lineup. So he's the X factor to look at tonight, in my opinion. Numbers-wise, Bruins, like I said, are actually 7th on the power play right now, 25%. Senators not too far behind at 10th, 23.2%. Big disparity in penalty kill. Bruins are 12th, which is pretty strong. The Senators down at 31st, 67.3% penalty kill. That's an area where the Bruins can really take advantage. Stay disciplined, take advantage of your power plays. We say it all the time. Goals for per game, the Bruins are 6th right now, which, again, very surprising. Did not see that coming. The Senators are 7th. Total team defense, the Bruins are 23rd, 3.28. Senators are 29th at 3.59. So this is a team that's vulnerable. They can be scored on. They're without their captain, Brady Tkachuk. Look for Nikita Zadorov to continue to get under the opposition's skin. They don't have their spiritual, physical leader to back them up. They're without Thomas Chabot. The goaltending is struggling. So this is a game the Bruins should be able to take advantage of, with the Senators kind of struggling, missing some key players, and really not very strong at all defensively. So Bruins, Senators tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern start in Ottawa. Bruins are 11-7. Senators 8-5-4. They'll play again in just over a month to round out this season series. It's tied right now at 1. Look out for Jordan Spence on the Ottawa side of things, and I'm looking for Charlie Coyle to get his first goal of the season tonight against his old friend Linus Ullmark, who's hopefully will be in net for this team tonight. Desperately want a Swayman versus Ullmark matchup. All right, that is it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. Please do check out the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast as your second listen. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL YouTube channel, wherever you listen to podcasts. Become an everydayer here on Locked On Boston Bruins by subscribing on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your favorite team every single day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.